Hi guys, welcome back. Today we'll be analyzing another business model, a very easy business model. Once again, we'll be analyzing SULA Vineyards. The thing about SULA Vineyard is it's the only wine company that has been listed in the market, and it's also a fairly new company. So let's just see how the company has been doing. What is the demand? How has the growth prospect been? If they're doing any capex, and what is the future outlook of the company? Yeah. So let's just dive right in. Yeah. So we're going to be doing SULA Vineyards today. So as you all know, they make very simple. They make wine. Of course, they make different types of wine, whether it is white wine, red wine, and the rosé wine. They make different types of wine. So to make wine, what do you need? The first thing you need is the grapes, right? And you can't be depending on the other, like the outside sources for grapes, because as you know, because of seasonality and the fluctuation of prices, SULA Vineyard has their own. SULA Vineyard has their own vineyard. Vineyard is what where you grow the grapes, right? They have their own very big vineyard at Nashik. So what they do is they plant and they harvest their own red grapes that is needed for the wine production, right? So for interesting thing about they own 50% market share in the domestic wine and 60% market share in the premium wine segment, right? And of course you can see they have a very big vineyard, like 2,800 plus acres, right? That, and also the capacity of the wine is also there. So let us just see first, before I go further, right? Let's see how the wine is made, right? So when you make wine, there are five different stages of making wine. So the first stage is, you of course you need the grapes, so you have to harvest the grapes, right? Harvesting is just a process, where you see if the grapes that are there, if they are ripe or not. You check for the ripeness of the grape, and then you pluck it, and you just gather all these grapes. That is called harvesting. The second stage, or the second step process, is called crushing and pressing. I don't know if you all know this, or if you all remember, like you would have seen some videos, right? In olden days they used to crush it using their legs, and we would feel gross, like, ew, they used to make wine like this. But now of course they can't use their feet to crush it, of course, because of sanitation issue, because of hygiene and all that. That's one thing. And the second, you're not just producing 2 or 3 liters of wine, right? You're producing like around 9,000. You're producing some mega liters of wine. So as a result, you need this big machine. So what happens is, once they harvest, it goes into a cleaning stage. All these grapes get cleaned, and then it goes to a crushing stage. What is crushing stage? They basically break the grapes to take the juices out. Crushing and pressing is that. Once it goes to the crushing and pressing, it goes into the fermentation process. That is the third stage. Now, what is this fermentation process? As you know, the grapes that are there, they are sugary in nature, right? The process of making the sugar substance into an alcohol, that is basically whatever the glucose is there in your grapes, from the sugar, the glucose that you get from sugar, you're going to convert it into alcohol. The process of converting your sugar to alcohol is called fermentation. Now this fermentation can be done how? Either you can introduce a third party, like a yeast or a barley. You'll add it to the mixture to ferment it, or you can do it in a very controlled environment by letting the air and the oxygen ferment. So there are two steps that you can ferment. Once you ferment it, what happens? It goes to another chamber for filtration. Of course, right, when you crush and you press, आपका जो चीला होता है grapes का, the outer layer of the grapes, and the seeds are also there, right? Even those goes into the whole, even those get crushed, and there again, it might have gone into the fermentation process, right? It might not have cleaned it. There might be certain small particles, and of course, right, let's say you buy a bottle of wine, and if you get something, you get some particle, will you feel good about it? Absolutely not, right? So this whole filtration process is to give you that silky texture in wine, so you don't have any kind of particles, and you get that silky and smooth texture in. That is called filtration process. The last process after filtration process is called storage. You would have seen, right, there is this big barrels, you call it as wine cellar, so they store all this wine in either in the barrels, or they store it in bottles, and so on. So the entire process of this, from the harvesting to the storage and everything, it takes around 18 months, yeah, approximately 18 months. And of course, right, like, the better the wine is, I mean, the more it ferments, the more you store it, the better is the taste and the quality of wine. You would have seen, right, like 20-year-old age wine, and as they age, the price of the wine also increases. So of course, depending on the type of wine you're doing, depending on the type you're catering to, and the quality you're catering to, the storage process will increase. As a result, because of this, the entire process, again, the minimum, it takes around 18 to 24 months, right? So this is how wine is made. Yeah. Next, let us see like what SULA does. Like I told you, they have their own farm where they where they harvest their grapes and everything. Now let us see how is the revenue coming. Can you see here? This is the FY23 ka revenue. 86.9% is coming from own brands. Own brands ka matlab kya hai? You are manufacturing your own wines under your brand name, SULA ka brand name, and you're selling it. That is called own brands. Third party brand is, let's say it might be a foreign wine, you have imported it and you already have a distribution and you're using your distribution to sell their brand, right? And of course, by selling these people, other people's brand, you get a certain part of commission or a certain part of percentage. And the next is wine tourism. What is this wine tourism, right? As you know, like these days you can go stay in those vineyards, right? And you can have an experience. So basically in their Nashik, the vineyard that is there, can you see here? This is their vineyard in Nashik and they have some hotels or the resort spaces around the vineyard where of course you can go for a day or a couple of days and you can just go there and just chill and see how the wine is made, the entire process. You can drink wine and of course purchase wine. And also they have also used this to promote to promote their business and to promote, basically to make their brand well known. They've started this whole wine tourism also. Interesting thing about this wine tourism is, can you see that the wine tourism has increased, right? It used to be last 3 years ago it was 5.4 and now it is 8.1 percentage. It shows you there is a lot of affinity for people to know about wine, to know like, oh, how it is done, what is the process. And interesting thing about this is, even in the con call, right, the management they mentioned that they, every time you go it is already booked, like it is always overbooked and they don't have enough rooms to accommodate people, right? So that is the case. And they feel really bad at the fact that they are not able to accommodate a lot of people, again because of non availability of rooms. The another thing I would like you to focus on here is, can you see when you compare 3 years ago to right now, the percentage of share, the percentage of revenue that is coming from their own brands also has increased. It used to be 63.6 in FY20, whereas in this year it has been 86.9. It's a massive increase. Can you see? Versus, can you see here the third party brands that they are selling? That has decreased a lot. Can you see here? 31% to 4.7. That's a lot, right? Like it's amazing, because the reason is, see, the other thing is also because it shows that their brand is having value, right? The people are wanting to purchase SULA brand and everything. As a result, can you see the third part? And of course, this is a good thing, right? Because jitna aap apna brand ka wine sell karoge, aapka margins higher hoga compared to a third party brand, right? You have more power with by selling your own brands versus selling other party brands, right? Even in brands also, like even in their own brands, if you see this 86.9%, even in that, right, there are two kind of categories. One is the economy and popular, and the other one is elite and premium. Now, what is the difference between elite and premium and economy and popular? Is elite and premium are those wines that are above your INR 700 to INR 1000, above 1000 rupees and 700 rupees. Those are the wines, right? A bit expensive wines. The economy and popular are the one that is like 32, like sorry, 300 to 700, in that range, basically INR 500 and below. And you would have seen here also, can you see the percentage of revenue that is coming from the economy and popular also has been decreasing over the last 3 years. And you can see the premium wine has been increasing. Can you see there's been a clear trend, right? Like 67 to 72%, a clear trend in increase, right? Now, why has been, what is the reason between, like why are we seeing this increase in, of course, increase in premium wine, and what is the reason for this increase again, even in your own brand? First thing is, let us just understand, the entire alcohol industry. So if I have to break down the entire alcohol industry, the alcohol industry is broken into three things. One is a beer, the other is spirits, and then it is wine. Spirit is, you understand what is beer, you understand what is wine. Spirits is, of course, your hard liquor such as gin, whiskey, all of that come under one umbrella called spirits, right? Whereas Indian consumers have a more affinity towards drinking beer, local alcohol such as, Fenny, and, you might know, right, something else. And then, of course, IMFL, that is Indian made foreign liquor. Now, what has happened here is, how do I tell you? Over the years, we've seen that, of course, people were not used to drinking wine in India. Over the years, what has happened is the percentage of people drinking wine has increased. There has been a lot of exposure to drinking wines. Now, why has this been? Because of two reasons. As we are seeing, even if you see my videos in footwear or in other things, we've seen that there's a constant change in premiumization that is happening, right? Why is this premiumization? Of course, because as people are improving, right? As people are having better opportunities, urbanization is increasing, people are having better incomes, right? As a result, there is an affinity to own a brand. There is an affinity to own. The aspirational people are increasing. The best way to relate this would be like, imagine when you were when you were in engineering college, right? At least I can tell you from my experience and my friends, is when they were in engineering college, when I would see that my guy friends especially, I would see them, they, of course, your pocket money is less and you can't afford a Ballantines. So what would you go? You go to MRP shop and get that old mug, 100 rupees kind Tetra pack. Now let's say when you grow older and you have a certain bit of money, you would go from there to like Morpheus probably when you're 25 or 26, and then of course you have a promotion, and then your earning power increases. You change your preference of liquor, right? You go to a little bit posh liquor and maybe you go to Ballantines. So you do realize, right, there is a more, as people are coming out, as the earning power increases, there has been more trend to buying expensive alcohol, and the whole premiumization trend is taking place because of this, right? Because we have a lot of people who want to own better things, that's the thing. So even here, if you see in the last decade that we have witnessed, in the first decade when the alcohol industry started, it has been a lot of volume growth. Right now, what we are seeing in the last 3-5 years is that, at least for the last 3 years, we are seeing it is a lot more of value growth in alcohol industry. It is more about premiumization, etc. And that is why you see, Diageo has introduced this Epitome Reserve, Bacardi has introduced Bacardi Reserve, and RK, that is Radico Kaitan, have introduced premium variants of Magic Moment vodka. You would have seen even all these three alcohol industry also, they keep talking about premiumization, that. Here also, even in wine also, it is the same thing. Wine is more of a, like a posh thing. You don't drink sasta wine. It is more of a premium thing. You feel posh. You feel a bit premium with wine. That's one thing. And the second thing is, with wine is you're seeing this change in demographics, in the sense like, wine is majorly consumed in this urban cities and metro cities, and you see that as women are going out and earning, it is one of the favorite drinks among women. And you see like this urban earning women are like the most people who are consuming wine. And of course, right now you see like most of the women population are out there working, etc. So there's been a lot of demand, as you see, right, because of all of these things, like premiumization and upgradation. You're seeing a lot of demand in the alcohol industry for wine. Right. Now let us understand, how what has the management been telling, like what has happened to for FY23. In this year, what has happened, they've sold the highest number of cases. They've done 1 million cases, and they've registered a volume growth of 20% on year, right? The second thing is, like I mentioned you, right, majority of their revenue is coming. Can you see here? Where is that? Yeah. Can you see majority of the revenue is coming here from the premium wines, elite and premium wines? Because of this, since they're focused here, being a leader here in this segment, that is why, because it's premium wine, your value is more here. Your margins also has expanded. That's number one thing, right? The second thing is, they're most focused on getting, like I told you, they're most focused on getting being a market leader here. Can you see here the economy and popular at 27.7%, right? That's this category of wine is what, from INR 300 to 500 category. Here, even the management is telling, it is not an exciting business. One, because of course, there is a lot of competition from the unorganized space, and this unorganized space keep giving heavy discount. As a result, they don't find, as they move forward, they want to increase this space. They want to be known. SULA wants to be known as a premium wine brand, but also catering to the mid and aspirational range. They want to be known for that, and they want to reduce the dependency of the revenue coming from this as much as they can. Another important thing I would like to highlight here is, see, right, the important raw material to make a wine is grapes. If grapes is not there, forget wine. You can't make wine at all. But right, grapes is again a fruit. At the end of the day, when that has seasonality, you won't see grapes growing every time, all the seasons, right? And if, of course, right, like any vegetable or fruit, it depends on monsoons and sunlight and everything. So there is a seasonality aspect of it, right? Like if something happens to the harvest of your grapes, you won't be able to grow it. So it is heavily dependent on that. Now, what has happened is, the management has told the harvest season of this year has been so good, that the quality and both in terms of quality and the quantity of the grapes, and they have harvested enough grapes for the next 18 months. 18 months to come or so. They have enough grapes to manufacture and ferment or whatsoever to make the wine. Not only that, they're not even worried about the monsoons, because you would have seen this time, because of that El Nino cycle, El Nino, you would have seen that the monsoon cycle was delayed by a week, right? And even this didn't impact them, because in their reservoirs they have had enough water. And again, all of this combined, they don't have any problem in terms of raw materials for the next 18 to 24 months. They have absolutely no issue. So again, good thing, right? That it shows in one way that the business is structural, right? Like you don't have to be worried about that raw material ka impact ke wajah se mera margin gatega, your volume gatega, what is going to happen. At least that part of the tension is gone. It's completely thrown out of the window, right? The second thing is, the other another important thing is also, because you would have seen the wine is stored in glass bottles, right? So of course, if you glass also here becomes an important raw material. Here, if you'd have seen in the alcohol industry, if you take in any alcohol industry, you would have seen that glass ka impact jo hai, it was more, because glass ka kya hua tha, raw material ka price बढ़ गया था. As a result, there was an impact in the other, like beer and other alcohol industry. They saw an impact. But Sula mein, when they made wine, they didn't see this impact as much, because the amount of portion, that is the cogs, that is glass is not the higher portion of their cost of goods, right? It is not. As a result, even the RF, the raw material inflammation, though he raw material inflammation tha, sorry, inflation, sorry, though he raw material ka inflation tha, which is the grapes as well as the glass, both are not coming, both are thrown out of the window. It is not a big deal here, right? Like I told you, they have enough grapes they have harvested for the next 18 to 24 months, as well as in terms of water, they're not really worried, right? The last thing I would like to highlight here is, the 25%, sorry, 25% buffer. What do I mean by 25% buffer is, so right now they have a capacity of making, I think 14,000 liters. But how do I tell you, the volumes I think they've done is 9,500 liters. Forgive me, I'm not sure about the number. So as you can see, there is a gap, right? But the capacity, it's basically like, let's say you have a capacity to make 100 bottles of wine, but you only made 75 bottles of wine. Why is that? So because, see, the entire process of making wine takes 18 to 24 months. Now, while you're making this wine, there are different processes, like I explained to you. एक होता है fermentation process, crushing and pressing, etc. Because there are so many processes involved in this, and the fermentation process is way longer compared to the beer. That is why they have this gap in the volume versus the capacity that they have, right? Because they have so many processes and the cycle is so long. Because of that, always you can't expect, like, because there is 100% capacity, I'm going to make 100% volume, right? Because the once if one side the grapes are getting crushed and pressed, the other side it is getting fermented, right? As a result, because of this, always there will be this 25% buffer. And again, it is just a part of the industry, it is just a part of the cycle here, right? Now, of course, we'll see capex, because if a company is telling it has growth prospect, uska growth prospect hai, so of course now unko capex bhi karna padega, right? As you can see, right now they're adding 6 million capacity to the existing 14 million capacity, right? मतलब क्या है? Now see, what I like about this capex, one thing is, this capex is demand driven, which means what, they can already see that there is demand and they're not able to cater it, and that is why they're putting up the extra plant, and they're doing all of these things. Why do I tell this? Because even if you would have watched my RSL Geartech video also, like I told you, in RSL Geartech also, they do the capex once they know that the order is there. What happens if you do the capex and you don't have order? Of course, it all your capex goes to waste, right? As a result, what happens when the things goes into a cycle downtown, you tend to suffer, you go into debt, and all the XYZ bad things that can happen to you will happen. Here, they see that the capex is there. Sorry, they see that the demand is there, and because of that, they've done a capex. Can you see here the company has reached the limit, right? So what had happened was, the 14 million capacity that was there already in the building, right? That building capacity was full. They could no longer cater there, do anything extra. As a result, because that capacity, the old building which had 14 million capacity was full, they opened a new building where they can add additional 6 million capacity. That is there. Along with that, what you can see is the last 2 years, that is FY23, this year and the coming year, they have done the highest capex, around 140 crore. That is the amount of capex done, right? And in going forward, because of this capex, you can see a 15% growth in volume. And of course, assuming that there will be a price hike, because it is an alcohol industry, right? You can add a 5 to 7% growth in price hike. You can look at a top line of around 20%. So this is the capex, and like I told you, the capex is good because it is demand driven. They're not doing the capex in anticipation of demand, but there is already a demand. Because of that, they're doing a capex, right? Now I'll just show you the Q4 FY23 numbers. One second. If you see the Q4 FY23, is it statement of yeah, it's consolidated only, right? So if you see, right, when you check, we're not going to do quarter on quarter comparison like I mentioned in my other videos. In consumption business, QOQ, there is a seasonality factor that is involved because, like I told you, in Q3 there are a lot of festivals and holidays, and people tend to go out and shop more. You would see that in Q3, right? In the last 3 months, that is November, December, in all of those months, there's a lot of festivals and weddings happening, right? And of course, the consumption of alcohol will go up. So we'll just do the year-on-year comparison. The growth has been tepid here, right? On the year-on-year comparison, it is a bit disappointing. You can see that the growth in revenue has been 8%, whereas the growth in profit has been around what, 5%, I guess. Yeah, net profit for the year, you can see that it is 5%, right? Other than that, you can see that other income is not a huge part, like it is hardly any. You'll see that employee benefit expenses has increased, again a good thing, you can see, because you can't expect to increase or go ahead further with your business if you don't add on employees. It doesn't make sense, right? So that's there. Other than that, if you see here, if you go to the balance sheet, you'll see that there is no asset liability mismatch. That's one thing. And you will asset liability mismatch, right? So in the income statement, you can see, of course, there has been a tepid growth in the top line on a year on year basis. And of course, even in profit, you can't see any operating leverage. If I go to my cash flows, can you see here in the cash flows, the profit before tax has increased, right? It has gone up from 69 to around 113 crores. It's good. Overall on the year, it has gone up. And after all your depreciation and paying all the interest, before the working capital changes also, the how do I tell you? It is positive, right? At least it is not negative. After this, can you see here, where is this money going? Where is this total money that is going operate before working capital changes, whatever we have? The 160 crores, where is it going? If you go further and see, the inventory has increased, right? Now inventory will increase, of course, right? After demand here, you're telling there is a demand, and they're projecting a volume growth of around 20%. Agar demand ke saath, if you see that the inventory is going up, it is not a big deal, right? And also, you understand, right? The entire process of making wine takes longer. It takes 18 to 24 months. It's not like me and you can go to the website of SULA and order wine and like boom, it comes. No, they have to keep certain level of inventory, right, to cater to people like me and everybody else. So as a result, inventory going up is not a big deal here. As long as there is demand and the inventory goes up, and if the top line and the inventory growth and the entire receivable payable is in the same is around the same, then it is absolutely no problem. And here, can you see there is increase in receivables? Increase in receivables has increased, but it is not a big amount. It is hardly increased from 16 to 18 crore. Now, after all of these, how do I tell you? After all this working capital changes, you see that the net cash generated from operating activity has increased, although it is flat, 87 to 88 crores, right? That's there. Now, where is this money going, right? In this 46 crores, Jotha, sorry, 160 crores Jotha, half of that went into inventories, right? 182 crores, literally, not half, literally entire money went into inventories, of course. Then after that, where did the money go? Can you see it? They've invested money here also. That is purchase of plant, property, and equipment. It makes sense. Like I told you, they're adding additional capacity of 6 million, right? Opening another building for the to store wine and everything. Can you see it? Because of that, of course, the plant, property, and equipment, there the money is going, right? That's that. Other than that, there is again, in investing activities also, there is no any big expenses that we have to see. The other big thing, can you see here in the cash flow from financing activities? It has increased here. It has increased here. Now, why this can? Because again, they recently have come out and they've diluted their shares, right? They've given out. Again, they've diluted their shares. Because of that, they have got this 95 crores, right? And this 95 crores, where is it going? It is going again, either in the repayment of loan. That all of this in the repayment of loan, or of course they're increasing it to what is that, investing it in plant, property, and equipment. So you don't see that there is anything wrong with the flow of statement, right? In the cash flow statement also, there's nothing wrong. You can see whatever money is generated, it is going into the capex plan, or it is going to the repayment of loan, right? That's one thing. If you come to balance sheet also, if you can see that the equity has increased around 35%, the equity has increased here also. The one of the majority reasons, one of the major reasons for the equity increases, like I told you, they've diluted their equity, because of the whole IPO thing and everything. As a result, the equity has like I told you, the equity has increased. The other thing, the last thing I would like to highlight is the ROE. If you divide the net income by ROE, you can see that the ROE also has increased from 13 to 15.7%. So again, ROE increasing, the cash flows are proper, and you can see in the future, you will probably see, right, that the top line is there of 20% ka growth is coming. Now here, another thing I like to highlight is you might not see an operating leverage immediately this year, in the coming year, because they're doing a capex, right? They've just started the capex and everything. Maybe once the capex is completed and the plant reaches a certain type of utilization, you'll see that the operating leverage also will be seen in the statement. Another thing is, I have to, I didn't write the update for Q1 FY24. They had an update recently, so let's just see that. Yeah, I think it's this. Can you see here the own brands? Can you see witnessed a strong growth of 24%, with elite and premium brands leading the show with impressive 30% growth. This again shows you, right, in over the last year to this year, they had a year-on-year growth of 24%. It clearly goes to show you, like I was telling you, the demand for growth, the demand for wine is there. Otherwise, we wouldn't have seen this, number. That's one. The second thing, remember, I kept talking about the whole premiumization. Just look at this statement, right? The elite and premium brands leading the impressive growth of 30% growth, right? Again, it shows you that a lot of people, as their situation is getting better, there is an aspiration to own a branded product. That's one thing. So again, it's a great Q1 update has been really, really great. Absolutely wonderful. As you know, it just shows you the Q1 update being so great goes to show you, the company is on the right track, and whatever the capex that they're doing, it is going to be fruitful also in the future. So that's that about the entire SULA. The only thing I would like to highlight is what can be the risk associated with this business. One is the regulatory risk. What is the regulatory risk? Every state government has different taxation for alcohol. Like, for example, if you go to Goa, you know that you get the alcohol for very cheap. Why? Because the taxation levied there on the alcohol industry is comparatively lower, whether it is in Goa or in Pondicherry. It is relatively lower. But you go to some states like like Uttar Pradesh, or some in the Madhya Pradesh, there the state levy taxes are very high, right? So this can of course impact them. It can impact them. So this becomes one risk, because the state has ultimate control over what kind of tax that they can apply on the alcohol industry. The second thing is prohibition of alcohol. Now, what is this prohibition of alcohol? See, one is the dry days. Of course, there are not a lot of dry days in India. There are hardly, I think, three dry days on Mahatma Gandhi's birthday and death. But other than that, if you see, the dry days increases, of course, that. And in certain states, you can't sell alcohol. I think like Gujarat, you can't sell alcohol there. So of course, any state can come and be like, oh, can't sell alcohol in my state. So that is another risk. The third risk is regulations on distribution. Now, so especially for SULA, what happens is, since they are in Nashik, it's in Maharashtra. From the Maharashtra government, they can just they don't have any kind of regulation on distribution, which means what, they will manufacture it. They have their own distributor. They'll give this wine to the distributor, and this distributor will go selling to different retail points or the wholesale points. That's how it happens. But in other states like Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, in all of these states, what happens is, SULA will make a wine. It will manufacture the wine. They have to go and give it to this one corporation board, which is controlled by the state. So these people, this corporation board or the state board that is there, they will hold all the stocks of your alcohol, and then they will supply it to different outlet. Or if you are an MRP shop, you have to go buy from that state operated society or whatsoever. So again, if they don't have control over distribution, right, if the distribution is getting controlled by the state, again, this also, because volume growth kahan se aata hai? Aapka volume growth aata hai distribution. Kitna aap distribution daloge, right? If you see the FMCG business is completely distribution. The more distribution you keep adding, the more volume growth. That is exactly what Vector is doing, and that is exactly what Varun Beverages did in the last 2 years. They started expanding their distribution in the west and in the west and the southern market. So yeah, As a result, can you see here the regulation on distribution again can create an impact. The last thing is the seasonality of grapes, which I explained you earlier also. Right now, of course, it is not a risk because SULA has mitigated the risk really well. They have had they've harvested enough grapes for the next 18 to 24 months. Having said that, other than that, there aren't any risks. Like we've seen, the company has been good. It really clears all the parameters. The ROE is good. It has a decent ROE. Growth है, you can see the growth coming from both volume and value. जो capex कर रहा है उससे आपको मिलेगा 20% volume growth, and then of course you can imagine you can take a 5 to 6% का price hike, which they've already done, by the way. I think I forgot to mention it here, right? They've taken a price increase of more than 5% in two states, that is Maharashtra and Karnataka, and they didn't feel any kind of impact. It wasn't like people were down trading. Price hike हुआ है. Like for example, in FMCG, if you would have taken in FMCG, because they increased the price, people started down trading, right? This didn't happen. That it also shows you that the company has pricing power. So like I told you, volume growth hai, value growth hai, demand is very strong. You can see, to cater to this demand, it is a capex kar raha hai. The capex that is there is a demand driven capex. Of course, if you go to the financials and see, even the financials, if you see, the health is really good, right? There is no any ghaplas or any sort of mismatch that you can see, right? So overall, a great company, and we just have to track and see, how the top line, like I told you, the top line had been a bit tepid in this quarter on a year-on-year basis. But although it is 3 months back, but right now, can you see the update has been stunning? They have done a 24% volume growth, right? So of course, let's see how the top line and the bottom line improves this quarter, and let's just keep tracking the business and see where it goes. So that's that. Yeah, let me stop. So that's that about SULA, and I hope to see you again tomorrow with another business model and discussing another business. Yeah. So until then, take care and have a nice day, and bye bye.